and welcome. Today we are taking a full look at the brand new 2024 Nerf rival Mirage XXIV-800. This blaster has definitely looked very intriguing to me. We are getting 10 rounds in the package. Like other rival blasters, it is 14 plus, and it is claiming 90 feet per second. This blaster is pretty interesting. It's essentially a cross between a Kronos and an Apollo. Because yes, it is magazine fed, but we can also breech load it. Let's jump right in and see what we get in the box. Included in the box, of course, we're going to get the Mirage itself. It is definitely a pretty compact blaster, smaller than I thought it was going to be. We get the 8-round magazine, which I think is the first 8-round magazine in Rival. We get 10 of the Nerf AccuRival rounds, 2 extra, and we get the instructions. Going over the blaster, we do have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 rival style rails. Right here exclusively on the right side, we have our safety. In the forward position, you are locked, and in the rear position, you're ready to go. We do have that same swiveling sling mount that was present on the rival Charger, and we have another sling mount up here. For the back, I think this thumbhole area could definitely be used as a sling mount. Now right back here, we do have the priming handle of the blaster. It's a pretty good size, and it's very well textured. However, it is not the smoothest prime. It feels a little bit gritty, kind of like the old Apollo. Also, when you prime the blaster, we do have a priming indicator back here. Right now it's primed, so it's orange, and when you pull the trigger, the orange goes back. Now right back here we do have our reprime switch. So if you prime the blaster, and for whatever reason you cannot fire or pull the priming handle back, you can pull this switch down to override that lock. And because I have a full magazine, you can get it to double fire. On the left side only, we have the magazine release. This is not an ambidextrous magazine release, and it's kind of awkward. Now, if you are right-handed, of course, you're going to be able to hit it with your finger, which certainly works, but it's not the most comfortable thing, and it feels pretty weird. But if you are left-handed, things get even more awkward. If you are left-hand dominant and you go to hold the blaster, that magazine release is going to be poking into you. I could see how that would get really annoying. For left-handed users, this is a really bad design. And when pictures first came out about the Mirage, many people talked about the 2 gaping holes in the grip, and unfortunately, they are pretty weird. As your fingers wrap around, they go into the gap, it feels bizarre, and on the other side, your palm is going to be sinking into the hole as well, so no, this is not a comfortable design, this is pretty poor. Now, one aspect of this blaster that I've been very interested in is this breech up here, because you're combining the magazine-fed aspect from the Apollo and the internal magazine aspect of the Kronos. And there are a lot of very practical applications for this design. So yes, of course, it is a magazine-fed blaster. You could carry more magazines, but if you prime the blaster back, just like a Kronos, you can stick rounds directly into the top. Maybe it'll get better with skill, but right now, I'm having trouble actually getting the rounds down into the magazine. But the angles do not correspond well between the loading bay and the magazine. It is flat up here, and when you push directly down, it does not want to go into the magazine because the magazine is going at a different angle. From what I can tell right now, this will lead to a lot of jamming and misfeeding. And that really sucks because conceptually this is so cool, but clearly the execution was not great. Now I think I have 2 or 3 in the chamber, and as you can see, I just jammed the blaster. So yeah, unfortunately, the breaching system does not work very well. It's not super convenient, and it's easy to mess it up. Now, as far as magazine compatibility, like the Challenger, this blaster will work with the more modern magazines, but unfortunately, when we go to feed a pre-2018 standard rival magazine, there's a lot of play up and down, and that leads to no chambering after the first round. Frustratingly, this entire issue was caused by Nerf changing their magazines to stop compatibility with Dart Zone's rival-style blasters. The original magazines were flat around this area, it was a perfectly fine design, but then, to halt the compatibility, they put 2 little nubs under the flat, and the really stupid thing is, all the new blasters are designed around this design, with complete disregard to the older magazines. This is one of the dumbest and inconsiderate corporate decisions that Hasbro has made, degrading one of their best lines just to halt compatibility with another company. Also, for whatever reason, this blaster changes up the magazine geometry again. When you insert a magazine into this blaster, the flat is on the back. It's actually how I prefer it. But the strangest thing is that with the Pathfinder and the Challenger, they switched it up. They reversed the magazine geometry so it was facing this way, flat forward. The bizarre thing is the Mirage and the Challenger are coming out side by side and use different magazine positions. So the Challenger's 12-round magazine, instead of going into the Mirage like this, actually has to be put like this. Alright, this is a little weird. We did just do a jump cut because what you did not see was me struggling to get the Challenger magazine out of this mag well. Totally felt like it was going to break. I had to unscrew these 3 screws, pry open the bottom of the blaster, and then wiggle the magazine out while holding the magazine release. I'm still flabbergasted that the Mirage is coming from the same batch as the Challenger and we still have cross-compatibility issues. That is simply awful and absolutely unacceptable. And besides being magazine fed, it's a blaster that uses a top breech that is unreliable, extremely prone to user error, and poorly designed. That's really sad, and things are not looking good for the Mirage. So to fire the blaster, insert the included magazine, or top load if you can get that to work, and then simply pull the handle back, push it forward, and repeat. And that was actually empty. That was not a blaster malfunction. Now let's take the Nerf rival Mirage outside and put it over the chronograph. Here we are outside with the Mirage. We will be firing the included AccuRival rounds. The box is claiming 90 feet per second, 94, 95, 97, 94, duplicate 94, and a duplicate to 94. So that does actually exceed the box claim of 90 feet per second, and the Mirage is a very consistent blaster trajectory-wise. So I am pretty happy with the firing performance of this blaster. Now let's fire some shots downrange. And we are jammed. My goodness. Okay, jam cleared. We'll proceed. I mean, we have a bit of wind, rival rounds are kind of floaty at distance, but like the other AccuRival blasters, the firing performance of the Mirage is very good. It is a consistent and accurate blaster. But everything else I have to address in my final thoughts. So what are my final thoughts of the Nerf rival Mirage XXIV-800? I'm just gonna say right off the bat, the Mirage is a bad blaster. And that is really hard for me to say because this is one I was looking forward to. Conceptually, it was a lot more interesting than the Challenger, but it's one of those blasters that really suffers from modern Nerf syndrome. It feels like a lot of the marks were missed, and it also feels like this blaster had a almost complete lack of care when it comes to ergonomic design, cross-compatibility, and battle functionality. We have this really cool concept that they just completely blew. The idea that you can use standard magazines but also a breech is super cool and is something that Rival had not tackled previously. This concept wonderfully bridges what works with the Apollo and Kronos. Unfortunately, in reality, the Mirage has major unacceptable magazine compatibility and a very poorly designed loading breech up here. Again, I'll have to use it more to really see if I can get it to work, but it is truly awful. By the time you struggle to get all your rounds properly in here, you could have very easily taken the magazine out and just loaded it like that. Also, we have very poor ergonomics with this blaster. I don't mind it so much, but we do have this bit right here, kind of a thumbhole stock that isn't a stock. I'm sure a lot of people are really not gonna like this. But what bugs me more is the very weird magazine release that is not ambidextrous. This thing technically works for right-handed users, but it still feels very out of place and pretty uncomfortable. But when we're talking about left-handed users, this would drive me crazy. Also, like I talked about early in the video, I really don't like this grip. Overall, I personally would not recommend you check out the Nerf rival Mirage. There are so many better rival options. Now, if you really like the way it works, or you want to see if you can master the top loading, then nothing's going to stop you from picking one up. And if you do, I'd love to hear your opinion on the blaster, or if your Mirage works better than mine. But right now, I think the Mirage is a very weak offering and total wasted potential. So those were my thoughts on the Nerf rival Mirage. They were, of course, my thoughts, and I would love to hear yours. If you do really like this blaster for some reason and are interested in picking one up, I will have the link in my description. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions on the Nerf rival Mirage. Subscribe for more, and happy blasting.